If you want maximum control and power in your forehand, then you have to stop making these 3 mistakes I'm going to show you in this video. So make sure you stay tuned. Like I said, if you want maximum power and control on your forehand, you have to stop making 3 mistakes. And they're really common mistakes, and you might be making one of the 3 or all 3. If you're making all 3, then here's what's happening. You have no power, you have no consistency, but you have a lot of effort that you're putting into hitting the ball. And you're probably wondering, like, how do the pros do it? How do the pros somehow hit the ball that hard and they make it look so easy? And when I do it, it's like an inverse. I'm working so hard, but the ball's coming off so slow. And these 3 mistakes are the biggest contributors to not having power, control, and consistency on your forehand. So let's get started. Well, the reason why this is so important is because what do all players want? They want to know that feeling of how it feels to hit the ball hard, but also get it in, and then still get it where you want to go. So the first problem or the first mistake that you might be having is too much tension. And you're saying, Kevin, what do you mean too much tension? Too much tension in your arm. And this tension comes from doing something I call pulling double duty. And it'll link to the second mistake, but before we get there, pulling double duty is trying to get your arm to produce the racket at speed you're trying to get for power. Meaning that you're trying to swing your arm really fast to do what? Get power. And because you're swinging your arm really fast, you can't direct the ball, or it makes it a lot tougher. Really, it's really tough because what do we see when we look at the pros? Well, what part of their swing looks like it's moving really fast? The racket, hence the word racket head speed, which is accurate, but I think it leads us down the wrong hole. And before we get to that second mistake, it creates tension because a lot of times players are thinking to have more racket head speed, I have to swing faster, I have to swing harder with the racket, which means my arm, I have to tense it up and try to muscle it and get it through, and it creates so much tension. But when you watch the pros, what do you see? You see this fluid, nice and easy swing that they reproduce over and over again. And so the first mistake is having too much tension. And the reason I'm not necessarily giving an answer to it because it links to the second mistake, which is no rotation. If you can't rotate your body, that's why you pull double duty, meaning that your body is the main source of creating power on the court. And so many players get this wrong. Or even a lot of players have their body moving a little bit, but not enough to really create a difference in the amount of power they create. Every player has different swing styles, how they take the racket back, but there's one universal thing that you see them all do, which is rotate their body. They're all rotating their body, and this is the trick. This is the thing that we get blindsided by, because we see the racket moving and we assume that to get that much racket at speed, we have to move the racket with our arm, which creates the tension I was talking about as mistake number 1. But really, what we're not saying is they're moving their body, which is moving the arm, which is moving the racket, and that's the trick. Understanding that the biggest mistake most players make is that they're not rotating their body, which rotates their arm, which allows, since the arm's along for the ride, for the arm to not have tension and then relax, which creates or gives you the ability to have more consistency and accuracy. But there's one more big key mistake that you might be making that sabotages everything, which is poor footwork selection. And so most players, when they think about footwork, they think about footwork in a way that is kind of separate from your stroke. Especially the forehand. They think about, I have to have good footwork, but I need forehand technique, when really they're connected. Meaning if you choose incorrect footwork patterns, it's actually gonna stop your body from rotating, which means if your body's not rotating, you're gonna start pulling double duty and you're gonna have more tension. And this is probably one of the biggest killers, where I see a lot of recreational players not choosing, or not even knowing, it's not about choosing, not even knowing correct footwork positions to use to make sure they optimize their body for rotation, which now means they can relax their arm and just direct the ball. When you have all these things working together correctly, what happens is this. Suddenly, you set your feet up in the right position, which, hey, allows your body to rotate now, hey, which allows your arm to be nice and relaxed. And how these things work together. Most students are just focused on the forehand technique, excluding the footwork. So they're thinking about, hey, I gotta do this swing and I have to swing really fast. And I see this all the time. I've even had students earlier, when I didn't understand it, we're doing acceleration drills where you toss the ball in there and the person swing, and you're like, swing faster. It's gonna make you swing more powerfully. But guess what? You're missing the main point, which is the body is the main source. So if you set your feet up, it allows you to use your body now, which now allows you to relax. And this is how you can have consistency and power, because you're creating the power from your body but you can be nice and loose and relaxed and focus on directing the ball with your swing. And so when you're not pulling that double duty, your consistency is able to increase too. The problem is most players associate, because they don't know, swing really rigid and hard, which means they're trying to create the power with their arm and direct the ball, which leads to being really inconsistent and, even worse, less accurate. So what's the fix? So in the action steps, we're going to actually do something a little different. We have to work backwards to make sure we cover each mistake the right way so it doesn't stop the next progression. So here's how it works. We're going to work from our feet. So number one is you have to choose the proper footwork positions, which means is it allows your body to rotate. In this position here, I'm facing the camera and I can rotate my body. Now, an incorrect body position would have my feet set up where it actually prevents me from rotating. Hence, my footwork is stopping me from creating power. Number two is making sure that you start rotating your body. I see so many players out there when they're out there hitting, they're hitting like this. Okay, especially in the beginning of their careers, or they're rotating it a little bit, but then they kind of stop it. You've got to keep continuing to rotate your body through the ball, because obviously if your body's creating the racket at speed, the source of your power, and then you stop it when you get to contact, then it kind of goes to arm. You're much better off rotating and then stopping it, but you'd be even better if you continue that rotation all the way through the ball. And number three is just start relaxing. This is probably, I would say, the hardest thing, because so many players are so used to being tense and they've trained themselves that this is the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard and rigid because they didn't have the footwork and they didn't have the body rotation. But once you get this down, guess what? You got to just let go. Your arm is along for the ride, and it's there just to direct the ball, meaning the racket face at contact. If you understand these three things and start practicing it and start noticing it, it's going to make a dramatic difference in the amount of effortless power you create on the court. And yes, you do have to use some effort, but it's going to be a lot less effort than what you're probably doing right now. If you like this video and you want to learn more about how to create more effortless power in your forehand, make sure you go to totaltennisdomination.org. I have a special course where I do a deep dive into exactly what you need to do to fix all three of these mistakes and more. We dive into all the different footwork positions because there's a lot of them, especially when you're on the run and you're moving in a certain location on the court. We dive into how to rotate your body, both in different stances, being open, closed, or neutral, and what stances to not do anymore, but you already know that one. And we cover, hey, how to be consistent. What's the racket face need to do? How do we learn to relax? And when you have all these things in place, it leads you to having a much better forehand. So go ahead and go to totaltennisdomination.org if this is something that sounds like you're interested in. But before you leave me a comment below about, are you making these mistakes and which one? Which one has costed you winning matches or having a better forehand? I want to know. This is Kevin Garlington at totaltennisdomination.org, helping players level up their games. Take care.